You may be thinking, why should I care about legalizing marijuana? I don't plan to use it, so I don't care if it's legal or not. However, legalizing marijuana would help to benefit everyone in the community, not just the people who plan to use it recreationally. Today, we'll explain the ways in which criminalizing marijuana makes our communities more dangerous, outline a plan to regulate the sale and consumption of marijuana, and visualize a world in which police can focus on more dangerous criminals than drug users. I've done extensive research for this speech, and I'm very passionate about the ways in which our communities can improve if marijuana is legalized for recreational and medicinal use. I hope to persuade you that marijuana should be legalized in the United States. You may think that arresting someone for a marijuana-related crime helps to keep our community safer. However, let me explain two reasons why the opposite is actually true. The first reason is that criminalizing marijuana paves the way for organized crime. Where there are people who are wanting to purchase marijuana, there are going to be people who are willing to sell it. Let's look back at the alcohol prohibition in the 1920s. Before alcohol was prohibited, according to history.com, crime was considered random and small. However, due to an extreme hike in the demand for illegal substances, crime bosses were able to create entire networks of criminals who were able to supply the product. The same thing is happening with marijuana. According to the DEA, in 2019, marijuana was the #1 most used drug in the United States. And it makes up a large portion of the drug trafficking industry. So the people who are benefiting the most from the criminalization of marijuana are the people who have these crime networks. And the people who are purchasing the marijuana from them are, as a byproduct, supporting and funding these dangerous illicit activities. Another reason that the criminalization of marijuana is more dangerous is that there's no way to regulate an illegal substance. So because of supply and demand, people are going to purchase marijuana whether or not it's legal. However, due to a lack of regulation, the product is much more dangerous than if it were legalized. According to the American Addiction Centers, marijuana has been found to be laced with glass, fungus, laundry detergent, and even other more harmful substances. People sometimes do this to make their product look fuller or to make their product more addictive. So criminalizing marijuana doesn't prevent people from accessing marijuana, but it does prevent access to safe products. Now that I've explained some of the problems with criminalizing marijuana, allow me to explain the solution. The first step would be to legalize marijuana. This would come with some limitations, including a limitation on the age, which would be 21, similar to alcohol. There would also be limitations on how much marijuana someone can purchase at one time. The legislation I based this off of had a limitation of an ounce, and this prevents people from purchasing large amounts of marijuana and distributing it to people who are not of age to buy marijuana. There would also be a limitation to the number of marijuana plants someone can have. This also prevents people from amassing large amounts of products and distributing it without following FDA standards. The next step would be to have the FDA regulate the product. The FDA already has standards for growing when it comes to farming food, and marijuana would need to follow these same standards. Some of these standards include regular water quality testing, soil and manure standards, and cross-contamination prevention strategies. This would all help to keep the product safe. Finally, there would need to be a reallocation of the funding that currently goes to law enforcement for marijuana-related crimes. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, from 2000 to 2010, the state of Washington spent over $211 million on marijuana-related cases alone. This money would need to be reallocated, considering many of these cases would no longer be considered criminal. My suggestion would be that the money go back into the community through drug abuse and addiction prevention programs, such as drug rehabilitation centers, mental health experts, and social workers. According to Mayo Clinic, which is a hospital and medical research facility, these are some of the environmental factors that most lead to drug abuse and addiction. Another portion of the funding could go back into law enforcement for more violent and dangerous criminals. This is a graph that was from Police Quarterly, which is a police-run newsletter that shows the violent crime clearance rates in Colorado and Washington before and after marijuana was legalized. The clearance rates are the number of cases that are reported to police that are being solved by police. As you can see in both states, the clearance rates had a sharp decline in the number of cases that were being solved. But once marijuana was legalized in Colorado, this trend was significantly decreased, and in Washington, it was actually reversed. This is due to the fact that police had more time and funding to focus on the more dangerous and violent cases. Now that I've explained my plan for decriminalizing marijuana, allow me to explain the product of putting this plan into action. Dispensaries are now able to sell FDA-regulated and safe for consumption marijuana. Our communities are made safer by the extreme hit and profits that drug cartels and drug traffickers have taken to their marijuana industry. Police are more effective due to the fact that they have more funding and time to spend on more violent criminal cases. Drug rehabilitation centers and drug prevention programs have more funding to help people. And some people may be opposed to decriminalizing marijuana because they feel that it is a gateway drug to more harmful substances. However, a study posted in the JAMA Internal Medicine, which is a peer-reviewed medical journal, found that in the states where marijuana was legalized for medicinal use, opioid overdoses went down by 25% over the following 6 years. And this is because marijuana can actually be used in place of some of these more harmful substances. So why should you care about legalizing marijuana? Legalizing marijuana would help to improve our country in many ways, including allowing the FDA to regulate the products, making our communities safer from drug trafficking and drug cartels, allow police to have more time and funding to spend on more dangerous cases, allow drug rehabilitation and drug abuse prevention programs have more funding to help people, and opiate overdoses would go down over time. If this sounds like the kind of future you'd like to see, I strongly suggest you vote yes on Florida Marijuana Legalization Initiative 1602. This is a measure that will be on the ballot in 2022. And these are not imaginary benefits of legalizing marijuana. These are trends that we are currently seeing in the states where marijuana has been legalized, and the whole United States should benefit as well. Are there any questions?
In terms of pain management, how do you think the potential legalization of marijuana might help prevent opioid addiction?
So as I showed I didn't show, but there was a study that I had read in the JAMA Internal Medicine that said that opioid overdoses did go down over time. And this is because doctors are able to prescribe marijuana as a pain relief alternative. And I actually work for a geriatric care company at this time, and she uses CBD and THC oils to combat her arthritis and Parkinson's, and she's seen a significant improvement in it. Really helps as topically as well as if she takes like a medicine. So I've seen it worked very well.
You said that you based the plan on a real life scenario. Was that like a particular state that you based it on, or was it like a combination of all the states?
Right, so I've seen a couple, but I based my plan off of the Florida Marijuana Legalization Initiative 1602. So all of the plan that I had outlined was the same plan that I suggested towards the end that we voted for.
So the marijuana would be farmed similarly to the vegetables that we eat?
Correct, yes. So it would just have to follow, I don't know about farming in particular, but I know that FDA can regulate marijuana in the same ways that we would regulate farming, since it would grow. I mean, it grows as well. So the Food and Drug Administration has different standards for different things, whether it's drugs, farming, or whatever they are regulating, and marijuana would need to follow the same standards as growing, since it grows.
Is there a difference between decriminalizing and legalizing marijuana?
Decriminalizing is more so, I think, has to do with how the law enforcement treats criminal cases. So if someone is arrested and they have marijuana on them and marijuana has been decriminalized, then they would more so go to a rehabilitation facility. Whereas legalizing marijuana, they would not have any repercussions for having marijuana because it's legal. There's no reason for them to have to go to drug rehabilitation. So it would be similar to if you got pulled over and you had a closed bottle of alcohol. That's not illegal to have, so you're not going to have any repercussions. Whereas decriminalizing, you would still have repercussions, but you would more so go toward the rehabilitation side of it.
In the money that's being spent in the budget that you were talking about, is that going towards like court costs and the housing and like just taking care overall of the inmates that are put in to marijuana?
Right. I had a whole, there was a pie chart of how much it was going toward. A good portion of that funding is actually going toward litigation. So charging the people who have marijuana cases. So yes, there is a collection of costs that goes toward that $211 million that Washington spent. Anything else? All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll stop.